So once this is all done, guys, you're now ready to do some animating in this scene. So the first thing you want to do is to now switch over to this camera view mode. So when you click on that, it will show you what is actually being recorded. Now to be able to control the camera, you can open up this menu up here, and you can also do that menu by hitting N on the keyboard and select View. So you need to choose this option here, View Lock Camera to View. And when you do that, you can control the camera using the same directional controls as you use to get around the scene. Okay, so you can close this menu on the side here by pressing N again. And what you want to do now is you can actually animate the camera as well as the train. So turn off the camera view for now. What you'd want to do is open up this bottom panel here and go to timeline. So I've already got um, the rotating windmill arms there spinning around. So I've set some animation for that. And now I'm going to set some animation for the train. So I'm taking the playhead all the way back to the start of the timeline, and I'm going to move the train back into the tunnel to start the scene off. So with the tunnel there, the train in the tunnel, I'm going to hit um, I in the 3D space here, and that's put a keyframe into the timeline. So what that's done, just to remind you, all these values here for where the train is and where it's rotated and how big it is have now been recorded at this point in the timeline. So I'm going to go all the way to the end of my timeline. I've extended my timeline to 600. So I'm going all the way to the end of the timeline now. And now I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to move the train to the end of the train track now, and I'm going to press I again. So now I've got two keyframes, and the train is going to be moving through the space. So we can just judge, is it moving through all right? Is it a little bit too fast? That's going along okay. If I wanted to slow it down, I would extend the timeline. I might extend it to 800 and just move the second keyframe across a little bit more, and that will slow the train down. That means it'll take longer to travel the same amount of space. So that seems about right. So we've got the train going along. Move the train back to the start now. You can also use these little keys here to jump from keyframe to keyframe. And now what we're going to do is animate the camera. So make sure that you've selected camera up here in the menu, and now go to camera mode, and you can set up your first shot. So if you want your first shot to be here of the train about to come out of the tunnel, set that up, arrange it however you like. That looks okay, and I'm going to press I, and then I'm going to let the playhead move across a little bit, and I'm going to just keep moving the view of the camera. I'm going to press I again, so you can see now this is animating the camera as the train comes out. So I'm going to just go through the entire scene by letting the train move across a little bit, and then I'll move the camera. You can be quite imaginative here. You can have the camera really soaring up high if you want to for a moment. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to press I, and you can see the camera will suddenly just leap up into the sky. It loses track of the train there for a little bit, so I'm just going to readjust it, add another keyframe in there. Okay, so you don't need to have camera moves quite as wild as that. You can keep it quite simple if you want to. Actually, sometimes the simpler the better. But that's the process of animating the objects and animating the camera. So after demonstrating the keyframing technique for the camera and for the object, I've just gone through and just done it again, just with slightly more subtle camera movements. It does get a little bit distracting if you have the camera swooping all over the place. So in this version, I've just had the camera moving just a little bit less and a little bit more smoothly. So you can see I've only got a few keyframes here. Um, and I've just tried to keep the camera moving alongside the train at the same pace. So that's a way of doing it as well. So once you're happy with your animating choices, you can then actually render your scene. So rendering means that you will create a video, or if you'd like to, you can just create some still images, and it's basically exporting your work. So to do that, the first thing we need to do is to come over here to the output menu, and you can choose to leave it on 24 frames a second, which will give it sort of an old-fashioned movie look, or if you want something a little bit more crisp, 30 frames per second is what we are used to watching videos online. Or if you want something really, really super crisp, but it's really unnecessary, these higher frame rates would be what you want. Scrolling down here to output, this is where you will select where you want uh, video to be rendered to. So I've just chosen the desktop for this instance. What you want to do is it says file format, and you can at the default setting is a PNG, so that means it's going to actually create if you've got 800 frames, it's going to create 800 individual images that then you later on have to turn into a video. The easiest thing to do for you would be to straight away select the video. So choosing to export it as a video will save you some time later on. And that's about all the settings. You might like to look at, this is something that I set as well. So if you choose the camera in your menu up here and then choose the camera icon here, you can do what I've done here and select the depth of field. So when you turn that on, I'll just show you again. Turning that on, you can then select an object that you want the camera to focus on. So I've selected the train, and then you can decide um, what depth of field do you want. So high aperture will give you a very deep depth of field, and a very small aperture, let's say a 1, will create a soft out of focus area, which can look quite nice. So I'm going to set mine to 1, and then you can see when the camera's nice and close to the train, the background is out of focus. So that's a nice setting to play around with. Okay. The other thing you might like to do up here in the render menu is scrolling down is to select motion blur, and scrolling down further is to select filmic from view, this is view transfer, filmic, and the look, you can decide how much contrast you want in your scene. So high contrast, very high, I don't think that looks very good. Medium looks fine to me. Once you're happy with that, um, what you can do is, I just realized a little bit earlier on that I made a mistake telling you to turn off the um, camera mode here for the big tree and the little tree in my menu. So leave that on for your trees, otherwise you won't see the trees when you render it. You can do a little preview render up here. If you go render, render image, and it gives you a view of what your train export will look like. You can save that as an image, but what you will be doing is going here to render and render animation. So that will take a little bit of time if you're rendering 800 frames and your laptop needs to take a couple of seconds per frame, that will take a little bit of a time. So make sure you don't start to render the animation until you're able to just let your laptop run uninterrupted for a little while. So this is what it will look like when it's rendering the animation. You can see on mine there's some strange flickering shadows are appearing, and that's because our school laptops might not always be up to the job of being able to render or process all of the information that Blender has in the scene. So in this instance, it's just struggling to process the shadows properly. So unfortunately, we might just have to scale back on the amount of objects that we have in a scene so that we can get a nice final result. But this is rendering at less than a frame per second, so it's already up to 80, nearly 90 frames per just in a short space of time. So it might not take too long for my laptop to render, but your school laptops might take a little bit longer.